Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Bob Louthen, host of The Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. My guest today, Matt Griffin. I am not from the IRS, so I get to call you that. CEO and founder of Combat Flip Flops. He's a West Point grad, class of 2001. That was good timing. So just great to have you on the program, Griff. Thanks for joining us today.
It's fun to be here today. I mean, people don't get to hear the prep stuff before we get on the call, but it was good all the way from the start and a lot of good energy. So I'm excited about today's podcast.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about your entrepreneurial journey today. I can remember hearing about Combat Flip Flops years ago when you started. Here you were going to go do something good back in Afghanistan. Tell everybody a little bit about the genesis of this whole concept.
We wrote a book about it. If you guys want to read the whole book, you can find it on our website. It's called Steps Ascending, Rise of the Unarmed Forces. It's 160 pages full of expletives, but I'll whittle it down here to a few sentences and a couple expletives. But basically, we make cool shit in dangerous places. And the reason we do that is because nothing provides stability and security like employment.
Right.
And, we saw this in our time in the military. We saw this in our time after the military. So I ended up traveling back to Afghanistan. I saw people working in a combat boot factory. I wanted to provide them jobs after the war ended. So we decided to make flip-flops in a combat boot factory. And the story has been an adventure ever since.
My understanding is I think you, and I've heard this story, but you went to the SHOT Show, got a bunch of orders, and you hadn't made any flip-flops yet. Is that right? And then you had to go do it? Can we go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, so it's one of those like fake it till you make it. You read all the entrepreneurial books and you think like, oh, this is how it should work, right? You design some prototypes, you take some photos, you get your pre-orders, then you manufacture and then you deliver, and you just got to be truthful with your customers the entire way. And essentially you're using their cash to fund your production run, because if you're a new entrepreneur in a product-based business, unless you have money, which a lot of us don't, you have to use your customers' money to fund the production run.
Right.
And it's the same thing that happens with what's that website where you go and you fund ideas?
Kickstarter.
Yeah, very much like Kickstarter, but you don't pay them a 10% fee. So that's basically what happens. So we sold a bunch of crap, made our first samples, which we thought were cool. Then we sold a whole bunch of more crap. And then we made 200 pair of flip-flops and put them in a duffel bag and took them to the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. I paid $100 to the waitress at the public house bar to get the center table in the main cafe room when we first started in. I said, I'll give you another 100 if we can sit here for the next 5 hours, drink and talk to customers. And that was the cheapest SHOT Show booth ever.
Right.
And we just had people in, we just fed them food, fed them drinks, gave them flip-flops. They took photos, and we built a website in under 24 hours. And we had 4,000 sales in the next couple of days. And then we had to manufacture, which wasn't an issue, right? We were working with a factory that was making roughly 1,000 pair of boots a day. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we started getting all those orders, we found out that the U.S. government had announced the end of the Afghan war in 2011, I guess it would be. Mm-hmm. It was the end of the war was going to be in 2014. So all the contracts that were covering the overhead for these factories got pulled. And so our factory was shutting down. And they said, hey, look, we committed to doing this with you. We'll make one run, then we're done. And I said, that's great, because if we just get this project done once, like we can say we delivered it, we made 4,000 pair of flip-flops, and it could be over with. No harm done. It's just a cool project, learned a lot. And the adventure just kept going down the rabbit hole for about a decade. And now we manufacture in Colombia, Afghanistan, Laos, United States. We use our profits to put little girls to school in Afghanistan, which is kind of dicey at the moment.
I was going to ask, what's happening to your production in Afghanistan right now?
Everything has been paused for the last month or two. So it's all about security at the moment. It's just so dicey that we can't have risk anybody's lives based on, the need to make some product. So, our factory manager, that was a couple months ago. I remember he was talking to us and he's like, "Dude, I just want to come to America so that way I can go somewhere for a couple weeks without fear of something blowing up when I'm on my way to the grocery store." And that's the reality that they're living in. And then it's only amplified over the last month or so. So our mindset has been just make sure they're safe, make sure they're fed, make sure they're not doing anything stupid that's going to get them dead. And then we're going to wait till everything kind of calms down a little bit, because all wars are pretty large for about a month or two, and then they start hitting steady state. So we're waiting to hit steady state, and things are going. All the schools are shut
So
down.
the intent is to continue to manufacture in Afghanistan if you can.
That is to be determined. It's going to be really tough, because what's the consumer perception going to be? Is it going to be, hey, I'm helping people put food on their table that are suffering under oppression? Or is it going to be, I'm buying a product that's going to put money into the hands of the Taliban?
Right.
And then what's the consumer ideal going to be? And like for the latter, I was like, my response is this: do you pay taxes? Well, hundreds of millions of your tax dollars have gone into the hands of Taliban, and you didn't have a choice in it. At least this one, we're giving you the choice, and you know that it's going to good people.
Right. Right. Hey, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I mean, I really was moved by a blog article that you've written. It's on your website, and we'll put a link in the show notes to it for folks to go see it. But it's entitled "Written in Taliban," and it really kind of hit home. I got to tell you, with somebody who's, as I mentioned, I've got family members in the service now. I'm an old Cold War guy. I have the utmost respect for the post 9/11 veterans like yourself. But you say that we're using the same failing playbook that we've been using since World War II, and and our sons and daughters and tax dollars are being put into this. I mean, let's go there, man. The veterans have a voice, whereas I think a lot of folks that are on active duty are being muzzled right now.
It's tough, because unfortunately we've allowed the media and the VA to write this narrative about veterans, that we are a drug addicted, alcoholic, suicidal group of folks that need care and support. Unfortunately, we've allowed the VA in Hollywood to write this narrative about veterans that is just not true. They claim us to be a broken, psychotic, post-traumatic stress riddled, alcoholic, drug addicted veteran that needs nothing but support and gentle hands, which is really not the case.
Right.
In the majority of cases, you're going to see guys like you or I get out. And yeah, I mean, everybody struggles when they come back from war. Like, there hasn't been a war in history where somebody hasn't. But it typically, most people get their crap together, use those lessons learned in combat, and provide purpose for the rest of their life. I mean, post World War II, all these guys came back and they started hucking dudes into outer space and built the Corvette.
Yeah, we created a period of prosperity like the world's never seen.
And they didn't discount all of the veterans after World War II like that. But somehow figure it out since Vietnam, right, when we started waging these shadow wars without the mass support of the public, they've just kind of pigeonholed us. And I mean, everybody can have their theories on it, but I think they do it because they don't want us to be heard, and they don't want the American people to understand how poorly their dollars are being spent, how mismanaged the war effort is going. So backing up to this article, we've been working in Afghanistan since 2009 commercially. Since 2007, I met with every Afghan ambassador. I've met with President Ghani when he was still president at the invitation. I've met with heads of U.S. aid, Department of State, everybody within the kill chain. I got Christmas cards from George Bush. I've spoken to the Bush Institute, TED Talk, Shark Tank, all these other things. We couldn't be more proactive and more successful. But yet, when we go to speak to somebody on problems that are happening, they just totally discount us as, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're just dudes in flip-flops. Like, so here we are promoting business, not bullets, trying to figure out a sustainable solution, not using any government dollars and being successful. Meanwhile, all of the reports are showing how the government's being unsuccessful at everything they're doing, yet we get ignored. And that's just us. I know several other businesses that are the same way. I know several other veterans who come from the tactical, the military, and the intelligence communities that feel the same way. We are the guys on the ground who literally put our lives on the line, who know how to fix the situation. But because we don't wear a suit and tie and stand behind a podium, our opinion isn't relevant.
Right.
So it's super frustrating. And anytime you write anything or say anything about it, post a meme, people just think you're an angry, disgruntled vet who's just going to off yourself. And that's really not the case. And it's so maddening. So this past spring, we started raising funds to help get our interpreter out of Afghanistan. We were on 60 Minutes with it. We were on local news and media. We ended up raising $75,000, getting him and his wife out on August 1st to the UK because the United States Department of State failed miserably for 9 years on his SIV visa. Right. And then, just being infuriated by that, fast forward. Now, I've been watching this peace talk every day since fall of 2019 when they first started announcing this. I have a checklist item that I check. I make sure and see what's going on with the Afghan peace talks. This has been a debacle since the beginning. Nobody is probably as read up on this as me, and like with the exception of the diplomats that are going into this. So when this happened, I had to figure out a way to communicate this in a manner that wouldn't have us stuck in the angry veteran box. It wouldn't have us stuck in the I hate the president box. It wouldn't have us like any of the other boxes. So there's a song by Perfect Circle. It's former Tool, Maynard, James Keenan, but it's called Pet. And it's a song about the war effort written from the perspective of a warmongering politician. And like telling people to go back to sleep. We're going to take care of the boogeyman. We're going to do this. Just go back to sleep. Do what we need you to do. Don't worry about the fear. Like, we got this. Just keep paying your taxes, right? And that's the kind of the mantra of the song. But it was so creatively written because it really gets you to think about what your government does to you under the name of security.
It's just so frustrating and relevant right now. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start. It's just, the parallel I see, I'm old enough to sort of see some post-Vietnam parallels, right? I came into the Army in 1982, right? So we still sort of had the hangover. The military was being revitalized in that period of time. And, I think we've sort of reached this peak. I'm scared the military's going to be thrown under the bus here for a while. They're going to paint us as the villains, and the scapegoats. You got any thoughts on that?
So we'll finish up on this article and I'll get right back to that because I've got a clear call to action for every listener on this. So oddly enough, I woke up on the morning of August 13th and I had one of those like divine moments. It's like, you have to write it like this. And so I just literally sat down and it just poured out in a matter of 20 minutes on a page. And then I hit up a couple other veteran authors that I respected and had worked with in the past. And it's literally 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And one of my friends responds, and his name's Scott Chapman. He's a former Army Ranger that I served with. He was a team leader. He's like, this is really good, but we need to turn the knife a little bit harder. Really stick it in. And so my first version was aggressive, but it wasn't as aggressive as this. And so we sat on Google Docs and he was editing and I was approving everything. And then, 2 hours later, this happened in about 2 hours. Like, what are we going to do? When are we going to publish it? I was like, well, we're going to hit right now.
You hit send.
Hit send, send it. Like, this is how we do. We do it live.
Right.
And within 12 hours, it made the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It made it around the Department of State. It's made it around all the intelligence agencies, made it to the media. It drove more traffic to our website in a day than we typically drive in a month. it resonated. And the message that I got from everything from because I just had my 20-year reunion at West Point, from my classmates that I served with. So officers who are now 06 colonels, down to privates that I served with in the Rangers or in the conventional military. And they go, thank you.
Did any of them come to you and say, Griff, you're saying what I'm thinking, but but I can't say it because I'm
That's
still
what
on
all
active
of them
duty?
said.
Yeah.
That's what all of them said. They said, my privates are like, oh, we're so angry. We know it, we feel it, we experience it. But when I try to get in words, I just smash down on my keyboard. And then all the, all the O's and the cerebral big brains, they go, yeah, we've thought about this enough, but we can't say it. So we just kind of shoved it in about 2.5 pages in a very aggressive manner to get people to understand why we failed to win the war.
Everybody go click the link, read this thing if you haven't seen it already. I mean, it just moved me.
Honor, duty, service. At the Veteran Crowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the Veteran Crowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The Veteran Crowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Hey, our guest is Matt Griffin, CEO of Combat Flip Flops. Matt, I don't want to leave that topic, but
we still got to answer your last question about the military.
You're right. You got to answer my last question. I hope I can remember what the hell it was. We have to replay this thing so I can go back. The parallels to Vietnam is what I'm fearing, and the pendulum swinging. I mean, it's been great to be a veteran for the last 10 years, but I think that's going to blow up a little bit.
I think that there's the way this war is different than it is in Vietnam is that not only that, but we had not one of these wars that failed, but we had 2 of them. And everybody tends to forget this. Plus you add social media and all of the ability for people within those communities to communicate what's going on real time, and the discrepancy between what the governments tell us and what the people are telling us. We are now more connected ever than we have been. The ability for us to communicate between war zones and actually understand the facts of what are going on versus what we see in the media is going to be unique. So I think that because of these massive failures, one is that people are going to realize that military has always been the freaking break glass in case of emergency. The failures that have gone on have not been as a result of the military. They are just acting at the direction of the elected officials that are appointed to direct them to do a certain job. I don't think there's a person here who believes that, other than exception of maybe like a couple guys in the Joint Chiefs who are screwing the pooch right now, that it's anybody in the military's fault. There isn't anybody from the lowest private up to, I would have to say, like a good 06 or 2 that don't hang their head in shame and realize that everything that went down was bad and it could have been done a lot better.
I'm just going to make another statement here. I'm probably going to get audited now on my tax returns or something.
That's kind of the running joke that I have, is I'm going to get audited as well.
But here's what's happened to accountability at the highest levels? I mean, where are the people saying, I did this wrong, we need to get it better?
So there is none. And people try to make this partisan, right? It's bipartisan. They both suck. They just do. The Democrats like to wage shadowy wars where they fire drones and use special operations forces better. Like it's the truth. Democrats use special operations better because they don't want their violence to be seen in the public. Republicans, they're the big warmongering guys. They want the big conventional force. They want the big presses and lots of dollars spent. and there's financial gain on it in both sides for both parties.
Well,
They
the
both sell.
Pentagon's been in love with Afghanistan, right? It's been a sandbox to go play in for a dozen years. The mission went away. I mean, or was accomplished one way or the other. Um, you know,
The From everything that I hear, the morale around the Pentagon is fairly low.
yeah.
Yeah, the Pentagon and all the officers and all the O6s and all the general officers running around there, like they can pretty much eat a dick because they ruined hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yeah.
Not just people overseas, but just think about all those, young NCOs who went over and had a hard time and struggled and came back and their families broke up and their kids had to find their dad's fucking dead body, right? Because they were so in love with their war that they aren't thinking about the secondary or tertiary effects of the decisions they're making behind such poorly managed strategy. They can all fucking eat a dick.
Griff, I wrote an article 5 years ago now. I didn't get the exposure that you got. I called it Vision 2020. It was probably 2016 when I wrote it, but I really thought that we needed to send more veterans to Washington. And get them elected to Congress. We had, after World War II, upwards of 70% of the Senate and the Congress, had military experience. Maybe that's a subject because just World War II was so, all encompassing. But, is that part of the solution now? I mean, I'm seeing some guys running. We got, I got a guy down in Florida, had him on the podcast. I got, guy in Arizona.
Yeah, Mike Waltz. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eli's
Eli
going.
Crane was on the show last week. Running in Arizona, and do you think these guys can help carry the right message?
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah. I hope they do. And I'm reading a book right now called The Sum of Us. It's a really great book about systemic racism. It was recommended to me by a college professor from Sinclair, guy named Michael Carter. And they just talk about the challenges and complex issues that go through Congress. And when they went to talk about lending and the need to open up lending for people of color, the congressmen and the staffers kind of laughed at them and they go, "Oh, that's a joke. That'll never happen. This place is owned by the banks."
Hmm.
So when you go to DC and you stand at the Capitol and you walk out on the front steps and you see Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all of the big buildings around there with all of the billboards facing the Capitol, they're all owned. And that's the
We
problem
got to
that I
get
have
people
is,
that'll go in there and do what is right as opposed to determining who is right. It's a very frustrating.
I hope so. It's one of those times where I think it's going to have to get really bad before people stand up and make the change. Because just even look what's going on now. It's been a month since Afghanistan, month and a half, 5 weeks since it really started kicking off. People are already switched the channel and they're more concerned about outfits on whatever that music award show was, or they're concerned about their football team. Nobody's paying attention. They're counting on us forgetting.
They are sweeping it under the rug. They're definitely sweeping it under the rug. Hey, I wanted to get to this stuff. We've had such a fascinating conversation around all of this. You went on Shark Tank. All of this stuff. Just in closing, take a couple minutes and let's just talk about how you think your experience in the military has had an impact on you as a business person. I mean, you must have you got some fascinating stories, but has your combat experience, your military experience, you think it's made you a better entrepreneur?
I definitely agree that it has made me a better entrepreneur. I think from the military standpoint of planning, you always have to plan. The old 1/3, 2/3 rule. If you have 9 hours to do a mission, you spend the first 3 hours planning, and then the remaining 6 hours getting ready for it, rehearsing, and then you execute on the 9th hour.
Right.
The whole thing of trusting the guys on the ground has been a really big thing. Is although I may sit from where I'm at behind the laptops and the screens, if I'm talking to the guys in our factory and they tell me something's wrong, and I go, no, it's not wrong, or no, this is the way it works on a spreadsheet. The bottom line is the guy on the ground is always right. Working with that has been good. Understanding when people are assets versus liabilities, and I fall into both categories. Like I know when I'm an asset and I know when I'm a liability. And so being able to understand that as a leader and place your people in the right positions to do their job when they're a most valuable asset, and then being able to shift them around when they become a liability has been it's been a good skill to have as a result of my time in combat. And just generally the understanding of it's only business, right? Nobody's going to die. I make flip-flops. I can have as much fun and be as aggressive as I want to be. But at the end of the day, like we're in it to help people. We want to do the right thing. It may cost us some money. We may win some, we may lose some, but generally nobody's going to die. And I think just having that perspective versus other entrepreneurs that have never had that much skin in the game, you watch them get stressed out about shit that honestly just doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's great advice. Hey, Griff, thank you for being on the program. Really appreciate it. 25 minutes goes by in the blink of an eye when I'm doing this. And particularly, I mean, this is just really interesting stuff. I'd love to get you back soon, so we can talk some more as all of these things develop. Would you come back in the future?
I will step into the spotlight anytime you send the invite.
There you go. Well, listen, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Our guest has been Matt Griffin, CEO of Combat Flip Flops. Griff, I'm going to throw out Bravo Zulu to you. Thanks so much for being our guest today, folks, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.